2023 has been one of the best years for gaming ever.
But one of the absolute worst for the industry.
Let's talk about it. I feel like I don't even need to ask you why we are talking about this, Tam.
I was going to say, I don't know whether to laugh or to cry. We try and be like lighter here. And we talk about serious topics, but we try and have that.
I'm so
you
sorry.
Right?
I'm so sorry. Hang on.
We try and have the kind of like casual kind of approach to it and have fun with it, but there's no fun to be had in this, man. Like, it is awful what has happened this year to the games industry.
Yeah, it feels so weird because, like, if you look at the output of the games that we've had this year, on GameSpot alone, multiple 10s out of 10. Yeah. And then we've got over 6,000 that we know of, because a lot of places haven't actually reported proper numbers. No. At least over 6,000 developers have been laid off this year alone.
I went to a website, videogamelayoffs.com, I think it is, which has been tracking all the layoffs, and the amount of studio name question marks next to it is very, like,
telling.
Ominous. Yeah.
Obviously this week, Monday morning was the news that Bungie was cutting, I think, between 8 to 10% of their workforce. We've had Unity, and in terms of like huge layoffs, Epic, Sony, Media Molecule, Volition is gone, Riot's had them, Activision Blizzard has had them, and then there's wider layoffs across companies like Meta and Microsoft, which have gaming divisions within them. And so the true scale, the 6,000 number is being thrown around, but the reality is it's way more than that.
Yeah, and like, to get the business economic side of it out of the way, I think the dissonance that comes from a lot of people, or the shock that comes to a lot of people when they see this, and they see that it comes from the fact that the games are making a lot of money. There was a time where there was like, it seemed like games were growing in a really major way, and let's look specifically at the COVID period. There was quite a healthy uptick in for
new
obvious
consoles,
reasons.
A lot of huge games.
Digital sales were higher because people weren't going to stores and physical and that kind of stuff. And people were turning to games as a form of entertainment when they couldn't go outside and, be miscreants on the street.
Yeah, and a way to connect with people.
Hit up the clubs and stuff like that. Yeah,
I was hitting up the clubs in Animal Crossing.
Yeah. So they see these upticks and they're like, buy, sell. And they like, so acquisitions started to happen in that period. There was like a bigger investment. And so the acquisitions that happened include EA purchased Codemasters, Xbox purchased Bethesda and Activision Blizzard, Take-Two bought Zynga, and
Embracer bought everyone else.
Embracer bought everyone, and most relevant to this discussion is Sony bought Bungie. And these are billion-dollar acquisitions. Big money. A bunch of new studios also popped up, right? Like,
VC investment.
Yeah, venture capital investment, and also like people taking payouts from these acquisitions and making up something new. But the problem is, the talent pool is the same talent pool. So then there's like a arms race and like a bidding war over like the talent, where it's like higher wages are being offered, better benefits or subsidies or whatever it may be to try and get people to go places.
Like, the real hotspot for that kind of stuff is Montreal. Like, the Montreal game dev scene in terms of hiring talent is so incredibly competitive.
So it was like people trying to get from the same pool of talent, putting more money into getting that talent, which is kind of, that expansion is laying the groundwork for an eventual implosion. And in 2022, things changed in the world to a degree with the state of lockdown. The economy changed in a major way because of world events. We had wars happening, and that drives up the prices of food and all these kind of other major resources. And also people are up in the club and back at amusement parks and arcades again to a degree. So, there's a natural dip, but that's where these major kind of investments start to fall on their face, because now that dip is just enough to make it so like you're not earning the required margins to make up for the money spent.
Gotta appease those shareholders.
Yep. And that's when for executives, that's a case of cold calculus. Like, they make these decisions and it's done.
Yep.
They never pay attention to the human cost, which is making video games less inviting, exciting, and sustainable as a place to be. So let's talk about the important thing, which is the human cost of this.
It has been truly heartbreaking. I mean, just in terms of people that we know, people that we look up to, and people that we don't know but who have done incredible things on the games that we love. The impact on mental health that has on the people who are impacted, but also the people who are not impacted, and the people who are still there and left behind, it's like I said, rug pulled out from underneath you, but it is truly that. You know, you are hoping that you get a good severance. You are hoping that your employer gives you, in the case of the United States, medical insurance for some period after, because otherwise, in some cases, it'll just stop.
Yeah.
I think that was the case with Volition.
Yep.
Like they did it on the last day of the month, so they weren't necessarily covered.
Yeah. And then you have to like also think about like weird schemes that are happening. Like in the Bungie case, like if you had shares that weren't vested, you'd lose them, and they would default back to Bungie. That sounds like you got rid of a bunch of people so you could get those shares back. And then you also have executives from that company being like, "Oh, it's so sad and that we had to do this." And every reply is like, "Did you take a pay cut, Pete?
Yeah.
Yes or no?" Chances are probably didn't.
Probably
like
not.
That kind of stuff. As people who have, I mean, like this is not some unique trauma that we face. Everyone's been to it. But as people who have been through this version of layoffs and like acquisitions and waiting to see whether you have a job or not, the accumulative damage it does to your kind of sense of self-worth, your faith and confidence in yourself is immeasurable. Like, and in an industry that is contingent on people being able to express creativity, that is a gunshot like to the head when it comes to this kind of acquisition and then layoff loop.
In terms of, you know, game creation itself, like you are losing talent, you are losing knowledge. Some of the folks who, I mean, we're just using Bungie as an example because they are the most recent and like in the news, but you know, some of the folks that have been there for over like 20 years.
Yeah,
and like people who are instrumental in the DNA of games like Halo and Destiny.
The thing that I find quite shocking is I've seen an alarming amount of people on X, which I shouldn't be surprised because that place is an absolute shithole right now of people grinding for like interactions so they can monetize, but weirdly not really seeing how it impacts them. I don't think they realize that the people that are being laid off are the people who are fighting to make the game better and make more creative decisions and try and push new ideas and that kind of like making the game as good as it can be. The people who are doing the layoff are the people who want to use the same repeated frameworks for gameplay, make everything monetized or AI, whatever. The people who want to make the money are the people who are doing the layoff, and those are the people that you are for some reason jumping to take the bullet for. It doesn't make any sense. Like the lack of empathy that I've seen over the last few days, a week or so, months and years, it seems to be happening a lot in response to a lot of these kind of layoff stories is staggering. Now more than ever, we need to kind of get behind these kind of people who are being laid off and ensure that they find a new place within this industry and don't feel kind of demoralized.
Seeing how disposable you can be in this industry is like, is that going to turn away new talent because they can see how other people have been treated, like regardless of loyalty to the company or, you know, all the hours put in. It's like it can be cast aside, and that sucks. The games industry losing out on potential, like the next big thing comes from an idea from someone who saw what's happening in games and didn't even bother. That is the most crushing part of it, where you see these young designers or developers or artists or whatever that may be coming up, you know, and then looking and being like, maybe I should go and work in another industry because this one is falling apart. We put resources in the description box. TakeThis.org is a mental health charity that specializes in video games, and they have a lot of amazing resources about what happens if you're impacted by layoffs, as well as other mental health resources. Everyone is banding together. Like, there is a really cool movement happening, like on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on Discord, on Slack. People are making groups to help find jobs for the new people, for people who have been laid off or impacted. There is a giant Excel spreadsheet of current open roles in the industry, and a lot of other resources. So that is all linked down below. And I think it's, you know, be kind. Yeah, be kind to each other. And the one thing I love is, like, I do see a lot of developers who aren't, you know,
executives anywhere, but I see a lot of like developers that are being like, hey, we've got openings here or here, you know, speak to me, or retweeting.
I'll refer you. I will look over your resume. Yes. I will, you know, signal boost.
And the other hard thing to ask people to do in this situation is like, because it is quite bearing your soul out there. Like, I know it's difficult, but if you can, like, tell people that you're looking for jobs, or like, because there are, I retweet, you retweet people who are looking for jobs. There's developers out there always looking for people who might not see you unless you say, hey, I'm out here. And there's also developers that will retweet and like share. I've definitely seen people like almost a bunch of times actually see like, oh, I'm now working here after like weeks ago being like, I need a job, and I'm seeing an interaction between them and another person. So all hope is not lost. I think we just need to be a bit more empathetic, and also stop buying shit, man. Stop buying companies because you think you're going to be the next Apple. Behave.
Well, thank you for watching this week's episode of Spot On. Bit of a tough one. Obviously, we really hope folks who have been impacted get themselves sorted soon. The show will be back next week.
You won't be.
I'm going to be in the UK, I'm afraid, for a couple weeks. So
I'll figure out something. I'll do like a puppet thing where it's just
I have a puppet.
Yes! Lucy puppet.
It's going to be hosted by Tam and the puppet of me that he had made. But yeah, if you see anyone like looking for a job and like putting themselves out there, be kind, signal boost, etc. I feel like we've hammered home that point, but you know, it's very important. I'm over on Twitter, X, wherever, at Lucy James Games.
I'm at Tamor H.
We'll see you next time.